I was lying on the cold concrete floor of my own basement, shivering in the darkness, when I heard footsteps on the stairs. My heart hammered against my ribs. Was it him again? Coming to mock me? To remind me that everything I'd worked for my entire life now belonged to him? But the voice that called out wasn't Marcus's sneering tone. It was different, familiar, a voice I hadn't heard in 3 months. Dad? Dad, are you down here? Stephen. My son had come home. The basement door flew open, and light flooded down the stairs. I squinted against the brightness, my eyes having grown accustomed to the dark. Stephen's silhouette appeared at the top of the staircase, and then he was rushing down, his dress shoes clattering on the wooden steps. Oh my God, Dad! He dropped to his knees beside me, his hands hovering over my body as if afraid to touch me. What happened to you? Why are you down here? You look... His voice cracked. You look like you haven't eaten in days. I tried to speak, but my throat was so dry, the words came out as a rasp. Stephen, you came. Of course I came. Mrs. Patterson called me. She said she hadn't seen you in weeks and got worried when. He stopped, his eyes taking in the bruises on my arms, the makeshift bed of old blankets in the corner, the empty water bottles. Dad, you have a pension of $6,200 a month. You have over $400,000 in your 401k. Why are you living like this in your own basement? Before I could answer, I heard footsteps upstairs. Heavy, confident footsteps. Marcus. My son-in-law appeared at the top of the stairs, looking down at us with that same smirk I'd come to know so well over the past 3 months. Well, Stephen, didn't expect you to show up uninvited. Stephen stood slowly, his lawyer instincts kicking in. I could see him assessing the situation, his jaw tightening. What's going on here, Marcus? Why is my father in the basement? Marcus descended the stairs casually, hands in his pockets. Your father? This is Jennifer's and my house now. We're just letting him stay here out of the goodness of our hearts. He's getting old, you know. Dementia. We had to move him down here for his own safety. That's a lie, I managed to croak out. Marcus ignored me, focusing on Stephen. That pension you mentioned? That 401k? All transferred to me. I have power of attorney. Full financial and healthcare control. Your father signed everything over willingly. He needed someone capable to manage his affairs. I watched my son's face. His expression remained calm, controlled, but I saw his hand slip into his jacket pocket. Is that so? Stephen said quietly. Then you won't mind if I record this conversation, will you? For legal purposes. Marcus's smirk faltered for just a second. Record whatever you want. Everything's legal. I have all the paperwork upstairs. Good, Stephen said. And I realized he'd already been recording from the moment he arrived. Then please continue explaining why you needed $450,000 of my father's retirement money and his monthly pension, and why he's locked in a basement with bruises all over his arms. Marcus's face darkened. But it was too late. Stephen had what he needed. Let me go back to the beginning. Let me tell you how I ended up in that basement, and how my own daughter stood by while her husband destroyed everything I'd built. My name is Robert Chen. I'm 70 years old, a retired civil engineer who spent 42 years designing bridges and water systems throughout Illinois. My wife, Margaret, passed away 5 years ago after a brief battle with pancreatic cancer. The grief nearly destroyed me, but I held on, finding purpose in my woodworking hobby and weekly poker games with friends from church. I'd always been close with both my children. Stephen, my oldest, had moved to Sacramento for his law practice, specializing in corporate litigation. We talked every Sunday without fail. Jennifer, my daughter, lived just 40 minutes away in Naperville with her husband Marcus. She worked as an accountant at a mid-sized firm downtown. Or at least, that's what I thought. It was last January when Jennifer called me, crying. It was a Tuesday evening, and I was in my workshop in the garage, sanding down a jewelry box I was making for my granddaughter's birthday. Dad? Her voice was thick with tears. Can I come over? I need to talk to you. She arrived 20 minutes later, Marcus in tow. They sat in my living room, Jennifer dabbing at her eyes with a tissue while Marcus stared at his hands. My daughter had always been strong, composed. Seeing her this distraught set off alarms in my head. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" I asked, sitting across from them. We made some mistakes, Dad," Jennifer said. "Marcus's company is downsizing. They're letting go of half the sales department, and he's on the list. And I got into some credit card debt trying to keep up with the mortgage payments. We're 3 months behind now, and the bank is threatening foreclosure." I felt my chest tighten. My little girl, struggling. "How much do you need?" Marcus finally looked up. "We don't want money, Robert. Could we stay here? Just for a few months while we get back on our feet? We'll help with bills, groceries, whatever you need. We just need a place to stay while we figure things out." I should have questioned it more. Should have asked to see bank statements, mortgage documents. But this was my daughter, my Jennifer, who used to climb into my lap when she had nightmares, who called me every Father's Day without fail. "Of course," I said. "This is your home too. Stay as long as you need." They moved in that weekend. At first, it was fine. Pleasant, even. Marcus helped me with yard work. Jennifer cooked elaborate dinners. We watched movies together in the evenings. I felt less lonely than I had in years. But small things started to change. 2 weeks after they moved in, Jennifer brought up the idea of power of attorney. "Dad, you're 70 years old," she said gently one evening. We were sitting at the kitchen table after dinner. Marcus had excused himself to take a phone call. "You're healthy now, thank God. But what if something happens? What if you fall or get sick and can't make decisions for yourself? Someone needs to have legal authority to help you." "I have a will," I said. "Everything's set up to split between you and Stephen." "That's different. That's for after." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "We're talking about while you're alive. If you're incapacitated, someone needs to be able to access your accounts, make medical decisions." "I'm right here, Dad. I can help." Something in my gut twisted. A small voice warning me. But I looked at my daughter's earnest face and pushed the feeling down. "I'll think about it," I said. Over the next few days, the suggestions became more frequent. Marcus joined in, casual mentions about how his parents had done the same thing. "Just a safety measure," he'd say. "No one expects anything to happen, but it's responsible planning." I did my research. Spent hours at the library computer reading about power of attorney, looking at legal websites. What I learned should have reassured me. A POA could be revoked at any time. It didn't transfer ownership of assets, just gave someone the authority to manage them on your behalf. The person granting the POA retained all their rights to make their own decisions. In theory, it seemed reasonable. "Just for emergencies," Jennifer promised when I finally agreed. "I won't touch anything unless you ask me to, or unless you can't make decisions yourself." We went to a lawyer Marcus had found, a young guy in a strip mall office who barely looked at me during the appointment. I signed the documents, both financial and healthcare power of attorney, naming Jennifer as my agent. "There," Jennifer said, hugging me afterward. "Now we have peace of mind." I wish I could go back to that moment. Wish I could see what I was too trusting to notice then. A week later, things began to shift. It started small. Jennifer offered to help me organize my bills, since she was already handling finances for the household. Made sense, I thought. She was an accountant, after all. I gave her access to my online banking to pay the utilities. Then Marcus started suggesting changes to my routine. "You know, Robert, you should really slow down on those woodworking projects. Dangerous at your age, all those power tools. What if you cut yourself and we're not here?" "I've been woodworking for 30 years, I said, annoyed. "I'm not giving it up." He held up his hands in mock surrender. "Hey, just looking out for you." My Wednesday poker games were next. "Do you really think it's smart to be driving at night, Dad?" Jennifer asked. "Your night vision isn't what it used to be. Maybe you should skip this week." "I'm fine," I insisted. But the next Wednesday, when I went to get my car keys from the hook by the door, they were gone. "Oh, I moved them," Marcus said from the couch. "Your car needed an oil change, so I took it to the shop. Should be back tomorrow." It wasn't back tomorrow, or the day after. When I finally confronted Marcus about it, he looked at me with concern. Robert, are you feeling okay? We talked about this. The mechanic found some serious issues with the brakes. It's in the shop for another week at least. Don't you remember our conversation? I didn't remember. But Marcus looked so certain, so worried about my memory, that I doubted myself. Looking back, I can see how methodical it was, how carefully they isolated me. They convinced my friends I was becoming forgetful when I missed poker games. They told my church group I was too tired for Sunday services. When my neighbor Mrs. Patterson knocked to check on me, Marcus told her I was napping and not to be disturbed. My phone calls with Stephen became shorter. Jennifer always seemed to be nearby when he called, interrupting with something urgent that needed my attention. Twice, I found my phone dead in the mornings, even though I'd charged it overnight. Marcus said I must have forgotten to plug it in properly, more evidence of my declining memory. Then came the first incident with food. I went to make breakfast one morning and found the pantry nearly empty. Where's all the food? I asked Jennifer. What food, Dad? This is what we bought at the store yesterday. You were with us, remember? I hadn't been with them. I'd been home all day. But again, that flicker of doubt. Was I forgetting things? Portions at meals got smaller. When I commented, Marcus laughed. Your doctor said you should watch your weight, remember? We're just helping you stay healthy. I never said that to any doctor. But I began to question everything. 3 months after they'd moved in, Jennifer sat me down with a stack of papers. Dad, I need to talk to you about your finances. I've been reviewing your accounts, and there are some concerning issues. What issues? Your 401k has been underperforming. And this house? It's a financial drain. Property taxes, maintenance, utilities. You're spending more than your pension brings in. That couldn't be right. I'd always been careful with money. My pension was more than enough to cover my modest expenses. I think we should make some changes, Jennifer continued. Transfer the 401k into a better investment vehicle. Maybe consider selling the house. Moving into a nice assisted living facility where you'd have care available around the clock. I don't need assisted living, I said firmly. I'm healthy. I can take care of myself. Jennifer exchanged a look with Marcus. Dad, you've been forgetting things, missing important appointments. We're worried about you. What appointments? I haven't forgotten anything. See? Marcus said softly. You're getting defensive. That's a sign of cognitive decline. They wore me down. Day after day, suggesting I wasn't capable, wasn't remembering correctly, needed more help than I thought. And I started to believe them. Started to think maybe I was losing my mind. When Jennifer suggested transferring my 401k to an account she could manage more actively, I agreed. When Marcus said we should redirect my pension to a shared household account to simplify bill paying, I didn't fight it. I signed documents. So many documents. Jennifer explained each one quickly, impatiently, as if my questions were proof of confusion rather than due diligence. Within a week, I no longer had access to my own bank accounts. It's for the best, Dad, Jennifer assured me. You don't need to worry about money anymore. We're handling everything. That's when the abuse really started. It was April, when Marcus first told me I couldn't eat dinner with them. You need to understand, Robert, Jennifer, and I need our privacy. Marriage is hard work, and we need time alone together. You understand, right? I ate alone in my bedroom that night, a sandwich Jennifer had made earlier. The next night, there was no sandwich. When I went downstairs to make something, Marcus was in the kitchen. There's leftover soup in the fridge, he said, not looking up from his phone. Help yourself to that. There was barely a cup of soup. I was hungry when I went to bed. The next day, I found the kitchen cabinets locked. New locks I didn't recognize. It's to help with your snacking, Dad, Jennifer explained when I asked. You've been eating too much junk food at night. We're just helping you maintain a healthier diet. But they weren't providing enough food. My stomach ached constantly. I lost weight rapidly, my clothes hanging loose on my frame. When I tried to call Stephen, I found my phone had no service. I forgot to pay the bill, Marcus said with a shrug. Your account's suspended. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. He never did. I tried to leave the house to walk to Mrs. Patterson's, to ask for help, but found the doors locked from the outside. Deadbolts that required keys I didn't have. Fire hazard, Marcus explained. We had to secure the house. You've been wandering at night, and we're worried you'll hurt yourself. I wasn't wandering. I was a prisoner. The psychological abuse came next. Marcus would stand in doorways, blocking my path, forcing me to ask permission to pass. He'd hide my glasses, my hearing aids, then act confused when I asked where they were. You probably misplaced them again, Robert. Your memory, you know. Jennifer participated less actively, but she never stopped him. She'd watch with this blank expression, as Marcus belittled me, as he mocked my confusion, as he reminded me daily that everything I owned now belonged to him. We're doing you a favor, letting you stay here, he'd say. This is our house now. Your accounts are in my name. You have nothing without us. Maybe show a little gratitude? When I tried to argue, tried to say the POA didn't work that way, that they couldn't actually take ownership of my assets, Marcus laughed. Who's going to believe you, old man? You can't even remember where you put your glasses. You think anyone will take your word over legal documents? I wanted to believe he was wrong, wanted to believe the law would protect me, but I felt so weak, so confused, so utterly powerless. The physical abuse started in May. I'd asked for more food at dinner, my hand shaking as I reached for the serving bowl. Marcus grabbed my wrist, hard enough to bruise. You've had enough, he said coldly. Be grateful for what you get. The bruise lasted a week. When Jennifer saw it, she asked what happened. I told her. She looked at Marcus, who shrugged. He grabbed the counter wrong when he stood up, lost his balance. I tried to catch him. Jennifer nodded slowly. Dad, you need to be more careful. She believed him, or pretended to. I couldn't tell which was worse. The bruises multiplied. A shove here, a too rough grab there. Marcus was careful never to hit where it would show on my face. Always the arms, the ribs, places I could cover with a long-sleeved shirt. One evening in June, I found my bedroom door locked from the outside. I pounded on it, shouting. Marcus's voice came through the wood, amused. You've been acting erratic, Robert. Aggressive. We need to make sure you don't hurt yourself. Or us. You'll stay in there tonight. I slept on the floor, my arthritis screaming in protest. In the morning, the door was unlocked, but there was a new rule. Bedroom doors stay open at all times. So we can check on you, Jennifer said. Privacy was gone. Dignity was gone. I was nothing more than an inconvenient burden in my own home. Then one day in July, Marcus made his decision final. You're moving to the basement, he announced at breakfast. Jennifer and I need your bedroom for a home office. The basement? I stared at him. There's no bed down there, no bathroom. It's not finished. There's a bathroom in the back corner, and we'll put down some blankets for you. It's perfectly adequate. His eyes were cold. Unless you'd rather we kick you out entirely, we could always have you declared incompetent and put you in a state facility. Is that what you want? I thought of state-run nursing homes, the horror stories I'd heard. Understaffed, neglectful, patients left in their own waste for hours. No, I whispered. Then get your things. You're moving today? The basement was cold, damp, and dark. The bathroom in the corner was a tiny half-bath, barely functional. They gave me old blankets that smelled of mildew and a camping sleeping bag. No pillow, no heater for when the temperature dropped at night. The basement door locked from the outside. I could hear the click each time they secured it. At first, they brought food down once a day. A bowl of whatever they were eating, usually just scraps. Sometimes I'd go 24 hours between meals. My body, already thin, became skeletal. I tried to exercise, to keep my strength up, but malnutrition made me weak and dizzy. I spent most of my time lying on the concrete floor, wrapped in the musty blankets, listening to footsteps above me. The worst part wasn't the hunger or the cold or the pain. It was the isolation, the knowledge that my daughter knew what was happening and did nothing. That somewhere above me, she was living in comfort, using my money, sleeping in my house, while I suffered. I thought about Margaret constantly. Wondered what she would think if she could see what had become of me. Wondered if she'd be disappointed that I'd let this happen. that I'd been so trusting, so naive. I thought about Stephen too. My Sunday phone calls with him had stopped months ago. Did he wonder why? Did he try to reach me? Or did Jennifer have some excuse ready? Some lie about how I was busy, how I was fine, how everything was wonderful. I tried to keep track of time by the light that filtered through the small basement window, but days blurred together. Was it August? September? I didn't know anymore. Then one day, something changed. I heard voices upstairs. Not Jennifer or Marcus. A woman's voice I didn't recognize at first. Mrs. Patterson. I just wanted to check on Robert, she was saying. I haven't seen him in months. Is he feeling all right? Oh, he's fine. Marcus's voice, smooth and convincing. He's been resting a lot lately. His health hasn't been great, and we're keeping visitors limited so he can recover. Could I just peek in and say hello? I made him some cookies. That's very kind, but he's sleeping right now. I'll make sure he gets them. I pounded on the basement door, screaming, Mrs. Patterson, I'm down here. Help me. The voices stopped. Then I heard Marcus say something I couldn't make out, and the front door closed. She was gone. I sank to the floor, sobbing. So close. She'd been so close. But that night, as I lay in the darkness, I heard something. A soft scraping sound at the basement window. I crawled over, looked up at the tiny rectangle of glass near the ceiling. A piece of paper was being pushed through the gap where the window didn't quite seal. I grabbed it, my hands shaking. Even in the dim light, I could make out Mrs. Patterson's handwriting. Robert, I know something is wrong. I'm calling your son. Hold on. Hope. For the first time in months, I felt hope. And 3 days later, I heard Stephen's voice calling down the basement stairs. Now we stood in my basement, Stephen with his phone recording, Marcus's smirk fading as he realized what was happening. Let me make sure I understand, Stephen said calmly, his lawyer voice in full effect. You're claiming my father willingly gave you control of his finances and chose to live in this basement? That's right, Marcus said. But there was uncertainty in his voice now, and the bruises on his arms? He falls a lot, unsteady on his feet. Stephen nodded slowly. I see. And when was the last time he saw a doctor? Marcus hesitated. I'm not sure. A few months ago? Interesting. Because I just called his physician before I came in. Dr. Morrison says my father hasn't had an appointment in over 6 months. Hasn't had any medical evaluation to support a diagnosis of dementia or cognitive decline. Yet you're claiming he needs to live in a basement for his own safety. I don't have to answer your questions, Marcus snapped. This is my house. Actually, Stephen said softly, it's not. Power of attorney doesn't transfer ownership. You have no legal right to this property. And I have recorded evidence of you admitting to financial exploitation and false imprisonment of an elderly person. He turned to me. Dad, can you stand? I could, barely. Stephen supported me as we walked toward the stairs. Jennifer appeared at the top, her face pale. Stephen, I can explain. Save it for the police, Stephen said coldly. They're on their way. The next hours were a blur. Paramedics checking my vitals, taking photos of my bruises. Police officers interviewing me. Then Marcus and Jennifer separately. Stephen on his phone constantly. Calling lawyers, calling banks, setting everything in motion. I was taken to the hospital. Severe malnutrition, dehydration, a fractured rib I didn't even remember getting. They kept me for 3 days, feeding me carefully, running tests. Stephen never left my side. I'm sorry, I kept saying. I should have called you, should have asked for help sooner. Dad, this isn't your fault, he said firmly. They manipulated you, isolated you, made you doubt yourself. That's what abusers do. Jennifer, I couldn't finish the sentence. Stephen's jaw tightened. Jennifer made choices, Dad. She chose Marcus over you. She chose money over her own father. I know that hurts, but you need to understand that what she did was unforgivable. The legal process moved quickly. Stephen had the POA documents revoked immediately, taking emergency power of attorney himself. He froze all my accounts and started the process of tracing where my money had gone. The answer made me sick. Marcus had gambling debts, over $80,000, owed to various casinos and private lenders. He'd been systematically draining my 401k to pay them off, making wire transfers every week. My pension had been redirected to an account in his name, which he'd used for lavish purchases: designer clothes, expensive dinners, a new car. Jennifer claimed she hadn't known about the gambling. Said Marcus had told her the money was for investments, for their future. But bank records showed her making withdrawals too, her signature on transfer documents. In October, the trial began. I sat in the courtroom, still thin but healthier now. Stephen had moved me to a recovery facility temporarily, somewhere safe, while we sorted everything out. I'd gained back 15 pounds, started physical therapy for my weakened muscles. The prosecutor laid out the case methodically: financial exploitation, false imprisonment, elder abuse, identity theft, fraud. Marcus's lawyer tried to argue that I'd given consent, that the POA was legal, that any abuse was unintentional. But Stephen's recording destroyed that defense. And when they called me to testify, I told my story clearly, completely. "Mr. Chen," the prosecutor asked, "did you ever want to live in that basement?" "No." "Did you ever give permission for your money to be used to pay off gambling debts?" "No." "Did you feel safe in your own home?" I looked at Marcus, sitting at the defense table. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "No," I said. "I felt like a prisoner." Jennifer's testimony was different. She cried on the stand, saying she'd been manipulated too, that Marcus had controlled her, that she'd been afraid of him. "He told me Dad was getting worse, that the moves were for his own good," she sobbed. "I believed him. I trusted him. When I realized what was really happening, I didn't know how to stop it. I wanted to believe her, wanted to think my daughter had been a victim too. But then the prosecutor showed her bank statements, showed the withdrawals she'd made, the luxury purchases, the spa days and shopping trips while I starved in the basement. "You bought a $4,000 handbag while your father was living on one meal a day?" the prosecutor asked. Jennifer had no answer. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Marcus was found guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced him to 5 years in prison, followed by 10 years of probation. He'd have to pay back every cent he'd stolen, with interest. Jennifer's sentence was lighter. The jury believed she'd been partially manipulated, but not enough to excuse her actions. Probation, community service, mandatory counseling. And she had to pay restitution too. "I'm sorry, Daddy," she said as they led her from the courtroom. "I'm so sorry." I didn't respond. Couldn't. The words caught in my throat. Now, 3 months later, I'm back in my house. Stephen flew out and stayed for 2 weeks, helping me reclaim my space. We cleaned out the basement, had it professionally renovated. It's a proper rec room now, with carpet and lighting and warmth. I can't bring myself to spend time down there yet, but maybe someday. My accounts are back under my control. The 401k is recovering. I've hired a new financial advisor, someone Stephen vetted carefully, and we have monthly review meetings. Mrs. Patterson comes over for coffee every Thursday. She apologized profusely for not acting sooner, for not being more insistent that something was wrong. I told her she saved my life. If she hadn't called Stephen, I don't know how much longer I would have survived. I've started attending a support group for elder abuse survivors. Hearing other people's stories, knowing I'm not alone, has helped more than I expected. The shame is still there, the embarrassment that I let this happen, but it's getting easier to carry. Stephen calls every day now, sometimes twice a day. We're rebuilding our relationship, and through all of this nightmare, I've gained something I didn't have before: absolute certainty of my son's love and loyalty. As for Jennifer, she wrote me a letter last month, a long letter, full of apologies and explanations, and pleas for forgiveness. She said she's in therapy, working through her issues, trying to understand how she could have let things get so bad. I haven't responded yet. I don't know if I ever will. Some people have told me I should forgive her, that she's my daughter, that family is everything. But those people don't understand what it's like to lie in the dark, hungry and cold, while your own child walks above you in comfort bought with your stolen money. Maybe someday I'll be ready to talk to her. Maybe someday the wound will heal enough for me to consider forgiveness. But not today, not yet. What I learned from all of this, what I want everyone to know is this: Power of attorney can be a useful tool, but it can also be a weapon. If you're going to grant someone that power, understand exactly what you're signing. Get independent legal advice. Tell multiple people what you're doing. Set up safeguards. And if you're being abused, speak up. Don't suffer in silence because of pride or shame or fear. The isolation is part of the abuse. Breaking that isolation is the first step to freedom. I think about what would have happened if Mrs. Patterson hadn't noticed my absence. If Stephen hadn't come when she called, how much longer would I have lasted? Would Marcus eventually have had me declared incompetent and locked away in some facility where I'd have no voice, no rights, no hope? I'll never know, and I'm grateful for that. My woodworking tools are back in the garage. I'm making a rocking chair for Stephen's daughter, my granddaughter. It feels good to create again, to have purpose, to have control over my own life. Some nights I still wake up thinking I'm back in that basement. I'll smell mildew that isn't there, feel cold concrete under my back instead of a warm mattress. It takes a few moments to remember I'm safe now. I'm home. I'm free. Recovery isn't linear. There are good days and bad days. Days when I feel strong and days when I can barely get out of bed. But I'm healing. Slowly, painfully, but healing nonetheless. And I'm not alone. I have Stephen. I have Mrs. Patterson. I have my support group. I have my church family, who welcomed me back with tears and hugs and promises to check on me regularly. I have my life back. That's what I hold on to when the nightmares come. That's what I remind myself when I feel that familiar twinge of doubt, that whisper of shame. I survived. And more than that, I'm learning to live again. Marcus is in prison where he belongs. The system worked, eventually. Justice was served. But the real victory isn't his punishment. It's me, sitting here in my living room, in my house, with the morning sun streaming through windows that I can open whenever I want. It's having food in my refrigerator that I can eat without permission. It's having my phone in my pocket, charged and working, ready to call for help if I ever need it again. It's knowing that I am not a burden. I am not confused. I am not worthless. I am Robert Chen. I am 70 years old. I built bridges that thousands of people drive over every day. I raised 2 children, one of whom would move heaven and earth to protect me. And no one, not Marcus, not even Jennifer, can take that away from me ever again. If you're reading this, and you're in a situation like mine, or you know someone who is, please reach out, make that call, write that letter, break the silence. It might save a life. It saved mine.